Therein lies this whole swirl of events that we're living under today, where we are now competing with the world. We're competing with old ideas in our own society, which are going to hold people back. The first budgets which are cut generally are things which, in many school systems, which would help their students maybe progress, but it doesn't happen. It hasn't happened, I don't think, in New York City. Certainly has not happened on Long Island, but it is true in many parts of this country, where the education value has not kept up with the educational need. As a matter of fact, there are companies now starting up, and some actually functioning for a couple of years now, where they train people in certain areas to actually take jobs. Some companies actually have done this for many years. I joined IBM, I've been retired 20 years, so I joined IBM 50 years ago, and I knew nothing about the computer business. Of course, it was the beginning of the computer business, but I knew nothing about the electronic processing of business at all. They put me through school, their schools, because they felt there was value in me, and they said, I'll train you to know my business, and then you will go out and do a good job in my business. But that is very few companies then, and more companies today will be trying that, but the fact is that is what they did 50 years ago successfully. And there are some small companies now who are developing schools and selling the idea to companies so they will train their workers for them to take over doing their jobs. As you know, many manufacturing jobs in this country are really looking over robots that are doing the jobs. It's not people doing it, but robots doing it. And there are certain computerizations which eliminate so many jobs. So therein lies the problem in achieving the American dream as you and I have known it. Yes, sir.
Yes, income inequality.
Yes, sir.
Do you think a redistribution of income would cure that income inequality
Well,
as proposed by our mayor?
well, I talk a lot about politics, and tonight I did not want to talk about politics, but that is a political issue when you say income distribution. In reality, we have always had income redistribution ever since we've had income taxes and home taxes and county taxes or city taxes. We've always had income distribution. The whole country was built by taking your money in New York and building roads in Arizona. Have you been to Arizona? Well, do you think the Arizonians could have paid for those roads and bridges and tunnels or in Nevada or in Utah? The population centers in this country have traditionally funded all those things, the Hoover Dam or all these major projects that the country has embarked on over these years. The fact is, if you've owned a house, you've paid very high school taxes. I'm paying very extreme high school taxes now, right here in Nassau County. My children don't go to school. Why should I be paying $10,000, $12,000 for taxes where I don't pay for that? My kids aren't getting any benefit from that. Is that income distribution, redistribution?
And the tax law is income redistribution.
But isn't the idea of taxing in any case income redistribution? We give away $1 million, or I think the president just gave, I think, $100 million to Jordan for helping Syrian exiles, right, from the conflict to help keep them alive. We gave whose money is that? It's part of your money and mine. Isn't that income distribution, redistribution? So the whole idea of foreign aid is income redistribution. It is done with a purpose supposedly beneficial to us. We gave billions to Afghanistan and to Iraq to establish supposedly countries that somehow were free, right? Are either one free, really, but we spent billions in in all those places, built hospitals, roads, paid their police forces. That's our money, right? Is that your money? Is that income redistribution? When you refer to income redistribution, you're talking about the lower classes in this country getting money. But isn't it truly so that we've always given income redistribution? Whether it be school taxes or whether it be foreign aid. So it's a very political issue when you mention it, but it's something we can spend days talking about. What does it really mean? If we don't have the purpose, in my view, of income or redistribution of monies is that we don't have people at some level of frustration and anger that they come up and do harm to the rest of us. That's part of it, okay? And that's part of it, whether it's international or local or national. You want people to feel they have a stake in the country. You want to feel that they have a stake in having freedom, in the stake in having the ability to move up. If people don't feel they have a stake in moving up and a piece of the action, so to speak, they can vent it out in other ways. That's part of my point of establishing, hopefully, a new American dream that is really more inclusive in reality than the old American dream. But the whole American dream is in danger of being lost, foundering, disappearing, based upon some of the things which are
I see somebody just
exhibited in our society today. Income inequality is one of them. The fact that we are not training our young people to really participate and compete in the new world of manufacturing and other business ventures. This is the problem. And it is a debate, and you mentioned one element of it. There are people that don't want to spend for the other people to do that, but you run a danger when you do that of having, let's say, what they used to call balkanization of the country, one region versus another, one element of society versus another. I don't have a stake in what you do in New York. What the hell do I care if they're bombing New York? I'm in Minneapolis. No one's going to attack us here. And so why should I give money to defend New York against Al-Qaeda, right? You know that. People have said that from other parts of the country. Well, it's all part of the same fabric. If you don't defend New York, and if you don't keep people from starving to death in the streets, it somehow, I think, favors the American dream, all right? That we're all in it together, which is one of the things people complain most about Washington, is that the factions have been so diverse, so extreme, that they haven't compromised. Of course, right now there's a move for the Republicans to become more, let's say, reasonable in negotiating things with the Democrats, with the debate between the Tea Party and the other Republicans in existence. So you see some movement in that. But the point is that unless we start thinking as Americans, then the American dream is going to fade away. Yes, sir.
Okay, one.
Talk of income redistribution. How many hundreds of billions of dollars a year are being redistributed, as you say, to foreign countries, not in this country, so that we're not getting any benefit directly to our citizens.
Well, but that's a debate, whether it is or not. It's a debate. It's a legitimate debate. Should you give money to Egypt? Should you give money to Syrian refugees? Should you give money to Indonesian survivors or to rebuild from the tsunami that occurred there. But all countries do it, and I've always done it. The
What's the
question
quid
is,
pro-
you're questioning, should we do it? Well, we're supposedly the leading country in the world, but isn't it to our advantage that China has middle class? Isn't it our advantage that Southeast Asia is developing infrastructure and developing people who have a stake in normalcy and freedom? It is to our advantage, yes?
But it hasn't been evidence as being to our advantage.
Well, we haven't been in war with China yet,
Right,
all
exactly.
right? But maybe we won't. And we're all wearing Chinese clothes, right?
Like a
I mean, we'll be without clothes if we have war with China, because we don't know how to make it clothes anymore. Yes?
Do you want to address outsourcing?
Discuss what?
Who's this?
Outsourcing. Outsourcing, first of all, most outsourcing is not to China. Outsourcing has been to India, not to China. But we have all, again, we have helped build the American dream in India to a great extent because of outsourcing. But the fact is, no, she asked the question. The outsourcing actually is becoming insourcing, because a lot of the people or companies that have outsourced are starting to insource now because of the language difficulty, because of the cultural differences in words and understanding. And so a lot of that is coming back. And as American companies are becoming more efficient, they don't have the same need for outsourcing. And it's becoming too expensive, actually, to outsource to some places like India. Because as you know, as economies build up and inflation takes over and pay increases keep getting higher and higher, there's an equalization that says, why should I outsource when I can do it here? Okay, because the cost differential disappears. Business will always go where it's cheapest and best to run their business. That is true about manufactured goods too. There are manufacturers starting to pull back some of their outsourced manufacturing back to this country. But remember one thing for sure, that all these large companies and many small ones still will do business overseas or have factories overseas because there's a market overseas. We only 300 million in this country. There's 1.3 billion in China. There's over 1 billion in India. There's 400 something million in Europe. I mean, if we just sell to ourselves, we're going to go broke. So we have to sell other countries. So if there are more customers over there to buy our goods, isn't that to our advantage? So it's to our advantage from a political point of view, from a war point of view, from an economic point of view, to have everybody in the world somehow participate, which is in the American dream. But they never had the American dream. There's no concept in most countries of such a thing as an American dream. As I said in the beginning, the American dream didn't exist for a lot of people in this country either. But it was built into the Constitution that, in a sense, we are real equal. So we've always worked towards that. It's been an ideal that's been worked towards. And again, I have a talk totally on cultural change in this country, and starting in the 20th century with blacks and women, and in the 21st century with another element, which says freedom for everybody. But that's an American ideal. It has never been an ideal in most countries. It's only in this country. So we've taught the world, in a sense, to be more free. And we are saying, but we don't want to move forward in our own development at this point. And in economic sense, we have not been moving as fast as many other countries in this world. For instance, we went backwards when it come to stem cell research. Other countries said, hey, they're not doing it, but we have people over here that are pretty bright, and many of them have been trained in the United States, and they've employed them to develop that, okay? This was corrected in the Obama administration, but if we have this kind of, I think it's 49% of the people in this country believe that the world was started 6,000 years ago. at the creation of Adam and Eve. You know that, yes? 49% of the people in this country believe that. Well, you may believe it, that's fine, but that's counter to the facts, the scientific facts and evidence of the world being a few billion years old, okay? So the fact is that if we have that kind of a dominant thinking, then we will not stay the world's power. We won't stay a power of any kind at all, because I have a talk, and I used to give it years ago, on superpowers. Superpowers have developed, reigned for hundreds and hundreds of years, and finally founded for different reasons, and many times for the same reasons. Everybody got fat and happy, and everything is great. Why should we change? Why should we see what these people are doing, and those people are developing, and those people invented? We're in top. We're going to be on top forever. The Romans certainly felt that way. The British felt that way. The colonial powers all felt that way, didn't they? We're on top. We control the world. Are they on top now?
Huh?
Less so, for sure. Okay? The fact is that that kind of thinking, short-sightedness, is not going to help us maintain the American dream for most of our citizens. Yes, ma'am.
My understanding is that...
Oh, wait for the microphone. Hold on.
Sorry. My understanding is that a lot of foreign cars are now being made down south, Mississippi, Louisiana.
Absolutely. Tennessee, Georgia,
Yeah,
absolutely.
foreign-made cars.
Pardon?
Foreign assembled, you know.
Well,
assembled.
no, they're okay. Many, and there are more coming, because it's cheaper to make it here than in their countries, and they don't have to pay the same shipping costs and so forth to get it in here. And as a matter of fact, the latest case was this week, where the workers in Tennessee for a foreign manufacturer turned down the union. Now, the left is saying, well, they were undue influence by the governor and by the politicians, the senators and so forth, and representatives from that state. And the fear factor, well, listen, that fear factor and that kind of stuff goes on both sides. The workers still made the vote. They weren't strong-armed to vote no, but they voted no. They did not want the union, all right? Fine, so the Democrats influence, how did de Blasio get to be mayor of New York City? Because the influence of ultra-liberal people and minorities have put de Blasio in, which is good or bad, and we'll see, right? Many people think he's bad, because like this gentleman sees some of the problems that could arise, as I do, and as the rest of you do, with his approach to the running New York City. So it remains to be seen how flexible he is. Christie was looked at least by me, as at least part of the reasonable Republican movement, and now he's being blasted by his own Republicans who are conservative, because they don't want a Republican running or potentially being president who's not a conservative. So with this debacle out of the George Washington Bridge, and there's more coming about the Sandy superstorm, where there were some problems in that, how the money was spent. So they're happy on that. So this is political, which I didn't want to get into tonight, but that happens on both sides, Democrat or Republican, because democracies are sloppy, and they're not always clean in their people are people, okay? That's why we have laws and jails and so forth. So the fact is that we will see. We will see. Yes?
Where are we?
Anyone else?
Anybody with a comment?
Yes.
Just put your hand up. Hold on.
With the problems we're acknowledging now in our educational system,
Yes.
what can we do to close that gap, which is so far ahead of us at this point, and time permitting? In order to
Closing the gap, right now, there are many companies who say, I cannot expand my business because I don't have the skilled workers
Right.
to do so. So they're beginning to rely on such people, as I mentioned earlier, who are starting businesses that will sign up various companies and say, I will train your people for you. Okay? That's one. Other companies are taking the enlightened view that I was party to 50 years ago and saying, we'll establish our own educational department in our company. And this is for sure being done by the German automakers in the South, because that's part of the German educational system.
That's right.
In Germany, okay? Germany is way ahead of most countries in keeping up with the technical needs of the world, because that's the way they've always
That's
trained their workers, the apprenticeship program, where they train them from the beginning to do that, okay? So we are starting to see movement in that direction here, where companies will do it, or they will hire other. The president, when he made speeches, said he was hoping that the community colleges would pick up that task. Maybe some have or not. I haven't kept up to that. But I do know there are private companies doing it, and I do know that some companies actually are beginning their own training programs to train this, because they can't hire them, they can't find them, because our schools don't produce them. And that's part of our problem. And if you're not going to get these jobs, which are higher paying, but there's less of them anyway, so there's another element here. With robots and worldwide competition, there's less need for workers. That's another problem for, if you're going to be here 100 years from now and we have this talk, we'll be seeing what's happening, because, you know, things do get streamlined and made easier. In other words, the school systems itself will change. As you know, many universities today, you don't have to attend the lecture or the class. You can pick it up on a website. My daughter-in-law goes to medical school. There are days she doesn't go to class. She says, oh, I wasn't feeling well today. I was sick today, but it's on the computer. They put it on a website. So she gets more out of that than when I went to class and couldn't keep up with my writing, which I couldn't read after I wrote it. Okay? But here you can play it and then record it and redo it, so you really understand that's a change in our, and Harvard and Yale, I think, Princeton, they've put, for the general public, there are classes you can sign up for and not pay for even, to take by professors. So this is on the computer, on the websites now, okay? Libraries all have computers now. I used to, when I started doing these talks, I would say, gee whiz, that's a nice topic. I think I'll do research. So I'd go to the library and do research. I don't have to go to the library. I go onto my computer. I can find anything on the computer. I mean anything. Anything. I found that my grandfather in 1892 founded a temple in Cambridge, Massachusetts. It was in the computer. Well, where would I ever find that in a library? I saw my father's signature and my grandfather's signature when they signed up for the draft in World War I. On the computer. Where would I find that? And my father didn't give me records. It was in the computer, because I knew where to look.
What you're
Yes?
What you're referring to, though, I'm sorry, somebody
Who's
else.
talking? Oh, the same
I'm sorry,
gentleman,
yeah.
yes.
What you're referring to are methods that a lot of people have taken into consideration, but you're not talking about a national policy or national programs where you're going to make these kids go to school for a full 8 hours a day or 9 hours a day, so they're going to get the same education that their partners in the Far East
Well, that's
and the Middle
because
East are.
in our republic, it's the states that have that control, not the federal government. When the Sputnik first went up, there was a hue and cry in this country for the government to establish technical schools to compete with the Russians. We never did. We left it up to the universities to do it themselves, and that's what they did. The government doesn't control the educational system in this country. It's the states. And that's part of, it's a positive and a negative, however you want to look at it. There are times it's positive and there's times it's negative. Yes, sir.
Okay, wait, I gotta come around there.
Wait for Ann. You're making Ann work now.